This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have a guest who I have had the privilege of spending a ton of time with this year in multiple states, Nevada, Ohio, California. He's genuinely one of the kindest human beings on the planet. He has an incredible sports background and is now contributing at Yahoo Sports. It is my pleasure to welcome Jorge Martin.
This is awesome. I'm always glad to hang out with you.
Hey, we had no shortage of that this year, which has been so much fun.
Really good year.
It's been a good year. It's been a good year for sure. You know, obviously we had the Expo, the FSGA way back in the day. It seems like forever ago, and SFB Live at Trophy Smack. So good stuff. Now you obviously, you've got a massive love for sports. Take me back to when it all began. Were you a big sports fan as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we shared our ride with Scott Rainier, talked about my time with the Dodgers. I mean, it started with them. 1977 Dodgers. I was a kid and just fell in love with baseball at that point. And that team was so special. The first 30 homer quartet in baseball history. You know, they had the legendary infield of Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Say, Dusty Baker and Reggie Smith. When I was a kid, Dusty Baker sent me an autographed picture that is still framed to this day. And I got to meet him, and he was just like one of the greatest people I've ever met. So it all started there. And I mean, just really everything, morphed from there. Football, because it was just kind of like changing the seasons when football came around and at the end of the summer that came, I became a Ram fan, and then the Lakers followed soon thereafter. And it's just been a lifelong love for sports ever since then. And the LA sports, I've been a little lucky to see a few championships.
Yeah, no shortage of championships. Now talk about your experience working with the Dodgers. Obviously there's a million stories. I've heard some. I'd love to hear more. So talk to me about your experience with the Dodgers. Tell some of the best stories that you've had, because I'm sure people want to hear them.
We could spend a whole hour and then still just scratch the surface on stories.
Oh.
It was a kid in a candy store. I mean, gosh, all my heroes, all my childhood heroes came to life. Because so many Dodgers were still around. Some the Dodgers that I mentioned, the Garvey, Lopes, Russell, Say, got to meet them, and gosh, I met Steve Garvey and Dusty Baker the same time. They came to do like a private signing for autographs, and I got to interview them both for the publication that I was running at the time, the Dodgers magazine, and it was just like that was my job. I was just to interview ball players, present, past, and minor leaguers who could be future Dodgers, and just be great. I'll give you. I got one favorite story, a couple of favorite stories. Tommy Lasorda, the legendary Dodger manager, just you've all heard how gruff he could be, how tough he could be, how much he loved how passionate he was. God rest his soul. Just one of the most incredible human beings, one of the most incredible lives lived. He loved kids. He turned into grandpa when he was around kids. And when I started with the Dodgers in 2006, my oldest daughter was just about to turn 2. She's 19 now. And it was, he just became like, he insisted that he call her Uncle Tommy. A year later, when my twin daughters were born, same thing, Uncle Tommy, Uncle Tommy, Uncle Tommy. And it was just like, I mean, it was just just such a great relationship. He'd see that. I mean, this is just a different side of this gruff, rough guy, and this spokesman for baseball, this man who was kind of like a cartoon, but he was so kind. But one of my favorite moments was, so my oldest daughter, I was probably about 4 or 5 years into my run there, and my oldest daughter, I think she was in 2nd grade at this time. She wanted to interview somebody for our class project. And she said to me, she told me about this, and I thought, oh, she wanted to interview me. And then all of a sudden it became clear that she didn't want to interview me. She said, I want to interview somebody famous. And I said, okay. And she said, can I interview one of the Dodgers? Well, they were on the road trip at that point. It was going to be a long road trip. And I said, the Dodgers are going to be away for a little while. I said, do you want to interview Uncle Tommy? And she looks at me, 6, 7 years old at the time, scrunched up face, looks at me and is like, Uncle Tommy's famous? And I just proceeded to tell her, I said that, his birthday's in late September, and this was from the previous season. I said, do you remember when we went to the Dodger game for his birthday? And she said, yeah, I remember. And I said, do you remember how all of Dodger Stadium sang him happy birthday? I said, do you think they do that for everybody in the war, everybody? And she's like, all of a sudden, like I could see the light bulb go on. And I said, yeah, Uncle Tommy's very famous. He's very famous in in Los Angeles. He's very famous in the United States, South America, Japan, all of Asia. He's the Dominican Republic, everywhere. He's famous so many places. So we had to do it via phone. And she asked him the very first question, what's your favorite part about your job? And he gets a big smile on his face because I was with him, and he just gets a big grin and just says, winning. I love winning. And then they went on and talked for like 10 minutes and just had the best time. And then by the end of it, he's like, when are you guys coming to the Dodger game? I miss you. And yeah, if I brought my family to the game, I had to go by Uncle Tommy's office and see that. So I'm always going to cherish that. So many great moments that I've even got a picture of him doing Eskimo kisses with my daughter when she was, I think, 4 or 5, 3 or 4 at that time. But another favorite one was 2008. The Dodgers have just finished beating the Cubs for the first playoff victory since the 1988 World Series, which I shared a story with you on our drive. And so what happened was, so I'm going through, I was doing interviews, and so I was doing video interviews with one of the guys on our video crew, and he said he was going to take some B-roll, and so probably take about 10-minute break. So I went over and the whole Dodger clubhouse is just exploding with champagne and hugs and everything, and water being, gosh, it was a mess. It was phenomenal. One of the greatest sights of my life. And I went over to Manny Ramirez, who had been acquired 2 months before the end of the season, and just like absolutely destroyed the league, hit almost 400 for the 2 months, and then just ripped through the Cubs in that series. And I went up to him and I popped, I got to know him, him speaking, he preferred to speak Spanish. He spoke very good English, but, he always enjoyed talking Spanish when he could. And Papi, I went up to him, muchas gracias. Thank you for what you did. And he gives me a big hug, and he goes, Papi, and it says to me in Spanish, just goes, let's go say hi to the fans. And I'm like, I don't know what this means, but I'm following. So we're in the clubhouse, and the whole place is still exploding. And all of a sudden, we're walking up the runway up to the runway to the dugout and up the steps. So before Manny was Rafael Furcal, another fellow Dominican, just also a great guy. Because of the two of them, I call people Papi all the time. So Rafi goes up the steps, and they show him on the video board going up the steps. Dodger Stadium is just a cauldron of noise at this point, and the place just all of a sudden explodes. Big applause, ovation, for Rafi. It's just amazing. 5 seconds later, Manny walks up the steps, and there was no roof on Dodger Stadium. He blew the roof off at that point. It was absolute mayhem, chants of people chanting Manny Wood. It was just, it was madness. It was incredible. I walked up behind him, and it felt like I was walking into that ovation. Like it was it was my ovation for about 10 seconds. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. The other great thing was right after that, my wife and daughter were sitting. My wife and the oldest daughter, our twins were still a year old, so they stayed home. I went to the lip of the dugout, and I'm like waving at them, and my wife is just kind of like, cheering and everything, looking around, and she didn't see me. So my oldest daughter, who was about 4.5 at the time, she looks at me, is like, I could see her point at me, and it's like, Daddy, there's Daddy. And it was just like, it's a moment that I'll forever cherish, and I'll forever be grateful for Manny for making that happen, because it was just so utterly special.
Well, it does not get any better than that. And listening to your stories, I mean, I look forward to many more in the years to come, because that was, that Kirk Gibson story. I'll have you back on for that one sometime, maybe. Incredible stuff. Always fun to baseball is so nostalgic, and then to have memories tied to those moments. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think it's the everyday aspect of baseball that makes it full for stories. Football, it's like you get the great stories on Sunday, but maybe you miss some of the stuff during the week. But yeah, baseball is just awesome. Great storytellers in baseball.
It's special that way, for sure. So when did you discover fantasy football?
1990. 1990. A good friend of mine. It actually started like similar to falling in love with baseball. A good friend of mine offered me a spot in a fantasy baseball league, a rotisserie style baseball league, National League only, and I was hooked. That league is still in effect. In fact, I was the 2022 champion of the league, hardest league I've been in, because to be in a National League only league, a National League only fantasy baseball league, you need to know everybody. You need to know everybody. But yeah, it started then, and then my friend Chris Parker, who's the commissioner of the baseball league, said, "Hey, you know what? I want to start a football league. Let's do it." Love football. And yeah, I still remember my very first draft pick was Christian Okoye, and he'd come off a huge 1989 season, and he flopped, didn't even get 1,000 yards. It was okay. I had a decent team, made the playoffs, but I got knocked out in the first round. But you know what? I was just hooked. I love fantasy football. And you know what? I love how the internet gave us the variety of fantasy, the different varieties. Baseball is kind of hard to change it up, but football, you could play super flex, you could play IDP, you could change up the roster positions, you could change up the scoring settings and everything, go PPR, standard, go half PPR, whatever you want. I play in about 24 leagues, and I don't think there's any two that are the same. There's something different about each one, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I got hooked for life, and played every season since, and have seen like all these different eras. But to me, the greatest thing that helped fantasy football was probably around 1999, 2000, when the internet really started to become a thing, and we started to see it stopped being going into the getting the newspaper and tallying up your touchdown only league scores, and winning because your kicker did something. I actually had a league one time where everybody on both rosters, all the skill players were scoreless. And then it was just the kickers who won. It was like 6-3 or something like that. It was just band kick. That's why I banned kickers. But no, I just love the variety. I love the two things that I love the most about it are the competition, because I love to compete. I'm a very competitive person, but I love the camaraderie aspect. I talk about that, the fantasy baseball league that I've been in since 1990. I mean, that's a brotherhood. And we've had people leave the league, but our league has been completely intact for I think about 15 years now, and it's just and that's the thing I love about so many of my leagues is playing to compete, competing against your friends, whether it's a home league or it's an industry league like we're or a charity league like we're in the Scott Fishbowl League, which is, gosh, that Pink's division is just that one's just a crucible. There's no easy outs in that one, but yeah, it's just it's awesome, and I just love that, kind of the evolution of it, and how it's really never I don't think fantasy football as an industry, or fantasy sports as an industry, is ever going to get satisfied.
It's a special game for sure, for so many reasons. Now, did you pick up Barry Word off the waiver wire when Okoye went down?
Barry Word, oh my goodness, that was great. That was great. Actually, one thing that I discovered in that league that I still do to this day is I love stacking quarterbacks and receivers. That year, I remember drafting Boomer Esiason, and he'd come off a year where he threw about 20, I think it was 28 touchdown passes, and his top target was Eddie Brown. And I was able to stack the two of them. And that actually, the two of them were very good. And they actually, that they were the big reason why I got to the playoffs that first season. But yeah, just really, understood the importance of the running back position, especially during the 90s, where so many great ones were still around. But yeah, very much it was the importance of stacking. That was great when I'd get Peyton Manning and one or two of his receivers.
Oh yeah, Harrison and Wayne for sure. So when did you first start creating content for fantasy football?
Cinco de Mayo 2020.
Okay.
So that was the birth of Familia FFB, FFB being for fantasy football. And it was a COVID project. It was kind of like a brainchild that I'd had for a while, that I just kind of wanted to do it. I really didn't know what it took to do a podcast. I just knew I wanted to do one. So I talked to some people on some things that I needed to, that they recommended that I do. And I talked to a couple of my cousins, and, like I said, it was COVID at the time, and we had the free time on our hands. And so we just said, hey, you know what, let's talk once or twice a week, record it. And for the first year it was audio only, but yeah, we did it on Cinco de Mayo because, the idea of Familia FFB was fantasy football con sabor latino, with a Latin flavor. Because one of the things that we saw was there were very few people of color doing it. We didn't see the only Latino or Latina out there doing it was Liz Loza in English. And so we just said, hey, you know what? Let's throw our hat in the ring. Maybe our familia, our gente will start following us, and we'll just get going. So did it that year, and then about a year later, it was 2021, introduced video, but also started a website, familiaffb.com, where, me coming from writing background, I started writing articles for myself, just kind of writing articles and tweeting them out, and trying to get any kind of foothold in the fantasy industry. And it was pretty incredible, even though it's 3 years later, it feels miles and miles away from that time. The site is still up, but since I started working at Yahoo, I really, all my writing energy is there right now. And so we'll see. Maybe there's maybe there'll be some time in the off season to let loose on some things. But it's been a labor of love. It was something that I really wanted to do because I wanted to get back into sports and kind of like really enjoy what I wanted to do, and see if maybe the podcast could take off, or if it could lead to other opportunities in the industry. And luckily it has.
Yeah. So talk to me about your role with Yahoo. What are you doing over there?
So I started at the end of July as a freelance writer, and started writing about running backs. And then, it's one of those things that, you're gonna, I know we're going to talk about people that have influenced me, but one of the people, Mauricio Gutierrez, who we've hung out with quite a bit at both FSGA and at the Fantasy Football Expo. He just said, hey, you know what, just say yes to everything. So I started out writing a weekly article on running backs, and then that then they started offering another one. And right. And in fact, it was the day of the start of the season where Jason Klobaka, my boss, he asked if I wanted to expand my role and start adding editing to the side. I said, yes, let's do it. So now I'm kind of 50-50 writing. I've got like 4 or 5 features that I put together, varying in length. And when I'm not writing, I'm editing and publishing the articles and the alerts that go to people's phones. I'm getting those out in the ether, and I tell you, it's very sobering when I'm about to hit publish on one of those alerts that goes out on people's phones, and it says this is about to go out to millions of people. So make sure everything is right. And so I do for a while there. It's I get a knot in my stomach, but really just to be a part of such a great team and such a big name. I mean, Yahoo was the first site I ever used for. I forget if it was Yahoo or CBS, but I've been on Yahoo playing fantasy for 20 years, and it's to be a part of one of the industry leaders, if not and just be a part of that team and working alongside just Matt Harmon and Scott Pianowski and Andy Behrens and Dalton Del Don, and Kate Majuk is also a contributor. I mean, it's just Dan Titus also, he's the lead on basketball. To work with those people, and I've always and I really equate it with my time at the Dodgers. It's working with people who are just incredibly self-motivated and so incredibly talented, and who are doing it for labor of love, but they're also really, really great at what they do. And that I love that. That's why I always say it's like I'm back in the big leagues again. So it's been phenomenal. We started kind of like 3rd week of the season, so we're gonna see. Hopefully the expanded role sticks. But yeah, I mean, it's been all positives.
Yeah, certainly exciting. I mean, Yahoo is definitely a foundational part of the fabric of fantasy football. Anybody that's been playing it for a while has likely played on Yahoo. I mean, that's where I started my main home league and everything. I mean, it's just Yahoo's been everything in fantasy over the last 20 years. Now, talk to me about the Injury Prone podcast with Edwin Porras.
Oh, well, Edwin and I have been friends for, we met just via Twitter, like in 2020, during the 2020 season, and had him on as a guest on my pod. And then we just struck up a friendship, and my oldest daughter, has an interest. She's a sophomore in college right now. She has an interest in potentially being a physical therapist or something to do with athletics training. First I asked him, I said, look, man, I'd love to see if you and I mean, if you have any words of advice for my daughter, who at the time, I think she was a junior in high school, or going into the senior year. It's like, sure. He's incredibly kind. We talked, when he was done talking with her, he and I talked football, and we just struck up a friendship. And it was probably sometime during the summer. We were talking, and I said, man, why isn't your podcast on YouTube? And he said, I really don't know YouTube yet. And I said, hey, look, let me do it with you. And plus, I'll do the YouTube. I'll co-host it with you. And that's where it started. Probably like sometime in August, we kicked it off. Been doing. He does a solo pod for waivers, for the waiver wire on Tuesdays that we put up, and then he and I, when all the practices or all the hay's in the barn on Friday afternoons, we end up doing a podcast between the two of us, where we go back and forth on play, kind of like player injuries, kind of like what's the outlook for them to play, and if they are playing, how could they go? And it's been great. I mean, Edwin's one of my favorite people, and we always do something called Cultura class, which he and I both being sons of Mexican immigrants. We end up spending a little time talking about something with Mexican culture. It could be beer, it could be tequila, it could be food. One time we even talked about do Latinos like Taylor Swift, and spent a little time on that, and but really just sharing a little bit of culture, but also sharing a whole lot of knowledge, because man, that guy's got a big brain, and I love being able to just we kind of want to do the same dynamic that James Coe and Matt Harmon have on the Reception Perception pod, where I'm kind of like teeing Edwin up, and I know just enough about injuries, just having worked in baseball and now in football, knowing about timelines and everything like that. So I can kind of tee him up and kind of speak intelligibly. But it's been great. It's been great just being able to, work with a good friend and kind of grow our friendship. It's just been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely a phenomenal collaboration, and it's so cool with the fantasy football community and experiences like the Expo. Talk to me about the Expo. Talk to me about the community and what it's meant to you over the last few years. Meeting people, creating friendships, memories, all that good stuff.
It's a validation of everything we've ever thought and hoped that people could be when we shared a screen like you and I are sharing right now. And it's funny. It's like you see these people and you've interacted with them. Maybe you've talked with them on the phone, you've done a Zoom call with them, but you've definitely done shows with them. And but this is the first time you're meeting them, but it feels like you've known them so well for a long time. And it's bringing together that community like that. Bob Lung, it was just a brilliant idea for him to do it. And I'm so happy that I went the first time in 2022. And I mean, gosh, it was like I was in a constant hug with people that whole weekend, and it was just like whoever I'd see, it's like, oh, just immediate embrace, and gosh. But you know what, and the thing is, and it really showed to me that it is a community that, there people could see rivalries, the people working for different companies, or maybe they were independent trying to break in, and but you don't feel that there's no jealousy. It's just really a community, people wanting to get together and help each other, help one another, and network. And gosh, I mean, so many great people and so many relationships were solidified, were either friendships were created or solidified there. And but yeah, I mean, gosh, yeah, I've gone 2 years in a row, and it's just I really I know I'm going to have daughters leaving for college, 3 daughters in college in a couple years, and it might be tough to get there 1 year because it might be moving time, but really just I want to keep reinforcing those friendships, because I mean, it is special. It shows me that beyond the great intellect and passion for this industry, I think there is just so many great people and so many great friendships that have been developed over time.
And kicked off at the end always with those karaoke performances, right?
Thank you for gosh, capturing me on putting on Twitter when I was doing Sweet Caroline. That's my absolute favorite song to do karaoke to. I've done it karaoke a few other times, and it's always a hit because people love to sing along with that song. And gosh, I mean, I'll tell you, like last year doing that. I even at one point, during the ba ba ba, I did kind of like a little hop, kind of in unison with that. People started to do that, and I came off, and I felt like I was just still levitating. I went to Mauricio. He and I are both huge U2 fans, and I just said, man, if that is even one fingernail of what Bono feels like when he's got 70,000 people in a stadium. And I'm like, that is, I will take that. And but yeah, just so special. This year, Nate Paulvote and we did Don't Stop Believing, which is which I was a little worried about hitting the high note. It didn't matter. Everybody sang along, and it was fine. I think it took me 3 days to recover my voice, but it was so well worth it. So well worth it.
Such a good time. Now let's talk about SFB Live in California at Trophy Smack. You've done that 2 years in a row, right? Now I obviously did that for the first time this year. So much fun. Talk to me about that one.
It's like a mini expo. And it really is. And it's almost like the same time next year. And in fact, you kind of like bringing things full circle with Yahoo. The first year, 2022, is the first time I met Liz Losa in person, and she and Mauricio Gutierrez had been friends for several years at that point. And I went to Liz, and Mauricio knew this story because I'd already told it to him, and the three of us were chatting, and I went to her and I said, Liz, you're a reason why I'm here. And she just kind of looked at me kind of incredulous. And I told her that, so this is 2022, in the summer of 2020, she had Mauricio on the Yahoo Fantasy Football podcast. And I reached out to Mauricio at that time. And he was my very first friend in the fantasy industry. And he gave me great advice at that time. And we'll get into that. But I told Liz that, I told that story, and we've been friends ever since. And it's just bringing together so many people. I mean, gosh, the league that you and I are in, the division that you and I are in, Kendall Valenzuela and Sam Holt and I were in that division last year. I was doing much better last year than this year. But this year, I think most everybody's like 500 or close to it.
Or below.
I won't say who, but yeah, I mean, it's been, I mean, just the camaraderie and bringing everybody together and seeing Scott there. I mean, to me, one of the coolest moments, I had been there 10 minutes. And so this was in July of 2022. So I haven't gone to the expo at this point. So I am meeting all these people, a lot of them for the first time. Mauricio, I had met. And but he was the only person I knew face to face before I walked in, and I was there 10 minutes, and like I said, I'm still feeling kind of, it's kind of like new kid at school day. And Scott Fish walks up to me, he's like, Jorge, thank you so much for being here. I'm like, what? I'm like, Scott, you're here. I know you live in Minnesota, but you're here. And I'm like, and you're talking to me like we've been lifelong friends. And it's been great. I mean, just the people that I met then, the friendships that I did. I actually ended up sitting at the wrong table. I ended up drafting. Next between Bob Harris and Lindsey Rhodes. Because I had put my bag down at the wrong table, and then when I went to go see the table was full that I was supposed to be drafting at, so it would ended up being good because we were able to throw draft ideas off one another, which was fantastic. But gosh, I mean, to see the common great feeling that was in the room, and the energy, and again, the passion and the competition, but really just knowing that we were all coming together for Fantasy Cares, just spectacular. I was so proud to be invited. This is my third year in the Scott Fish Bowl, second year doing live drafts, and gosh, any opportunity that I get to do the live draft, I mean, and a live draft is fantastic, but when you're at a live draft and we're drafting with Kendall and Sam and Troy King and Laquan Jones, Matty Kroll, gosh, yeah. Laser Jane. I mean, so many people, and the great Mr. Scampers kind of came out of high. I had met him. And his wife Darcy Romero, who is also known as Dame Overboard. The previous year they were at the Scott Fish Bowl draft, and in fact Dame was the only finalist out of that whole group, all the 48 people drafting. She was the only finalist out of that whole group. I came close, but But at the end of the day, she goes, "Hey, I want you to know something." And then she points at Mr. Scampers. She said, "This is Mr. Scampers." I was like, at that point, it was only Scott, Fish, and me were the only ones who knew the identity of Mr. Scampers. And it was just, it was great to see that, see all the people. I mean, Troy going up to him and just giving him greetings from all these people who were, that had loved seeing Mr. Scampers in the chat. And I adore those two, because sometimes they knowing that they're going to be in the chat is reason enough. Like on days when the passion might not be there, or I might feel like self-dragging. No, it's not when I know they're going to be there, and they're going to fill me up, and it's awesome. But yeah, this whole community aspect, it almost feels like an expo in like 3-4 hours, and it's cool. It's cool. I hope we get to keep drafting a trophy smack every year, because it's though I will say I talked to Scott Frankel, who ran the Vegas draft, and I was very tempted. That one's very tempting, very, very tempting.
Yeah, so many different drafts out there, different experiences. I hosted in Seattle the year before, and
Wow.
they're just, I mean, so many fun experiences within Scott Fish Bowl. Live experiences are, I mean, everyone's unique and different, and you want to be at everyone. But LA, I mean, telling you, Trophy Smack, after I hosted in Seattle, it was an incredible experience. But I thought, man, I can't miss that Trophy Smack one. It's such a concentrated event. Obviously, the people at Trophy Smack are incredible, so they put on such a great experience. So I love it. I love every aspect of it for sure as well. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll throw out some questions. Just give me
Sure.
first answers that come to mind. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
I still love the writing most. Kind of like trying to find that little nugget that maybe helps someone. Like last week, we have a convictions piece that comes out every week, and all the analysts for Yahoo just kind of pick a player that they think is either going to go off, or they could predict that the player is going to be shut down. And I know I was kind of going on a limb, but I've recommended CJ Stroud. And I looked at it, and I looked at his numbers at home, and I looked at Nico Collins' numbers at home, and I said, you know what? And I also saw that the Buccaneers were really, really generous when it came to quarterbacks at that point. I said, man, you know what? This kid's going to go for 300 yards and two plus touchdowns. I didn't know I was underestimating what he was going to do. But yeah, being able to find a little nugget that helps people win is just, oh man, I did some work for Fantasy Points last year, kind of like in their Discord, being one of their experts on hand, and people were thanking me at the end of the season for helping them win their leagues. And you know what? Other than winning the leagues, I think that's pretty close.
Yeah, for sure. That's got to be rewarding. Can you name a person that in the industry that you'd want to watch a football game with, just to get their perspective on the game?
Oh my goodness. Gosh. You know what? A couple of, who I love the way his mind works is Graham Barfield, and he's become a good friend. I love the way he studies the game. Him and seeing the way their minds work. The people who are like really, really, avid film grinders. Brett Whitefield is another one. To be able to get that perspective of them, it'd be really cool to kind of catch a game with them.
That's good.
Matt Harmon. I got to spend a lot of time with him at the expo this year. Just so happened. And to pick his brain, be able to pick his brain about receivers for 3 hours would just be, gosh, give me. Yeah. That's better. That's better than a Vegas buffet.
I love it. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of fantasy sports?
Oh my goodness! Well, it used to be that fantasy sports was my were my hobbies. I will say I still love I love to exercise. First thing in the morning, I love to get 30 minutes on our elliptical, and one of the things, and honestly, one of the greatest parts about every day, we've got this beautiful dog, 6-year-old Dalmatian pit bull mix, who's 90 pounds and he thinks he's a lap dog. So, but just really taking him for a walk is just every morning is just kind of like a great check in. And plus, I get to listen to fantasy football podcasts occasionally on that, every day, and just kind of catch up, see if there's anything I'm missing at that point. But those things, and being a dad is kind of a full-time job, hobby, whatever. you know what it is. You know how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I both experienced the Taylor Swift Eras tour this summer. What was your favorite experience with that?
Oh my goodness, just the communal aspect of it. One of my favorite moments was I get when we got there before so we were at SoFi Stadium. We were at the final night of SoFi Stadium, which turned out to be epic because that was when Taylor announced the 1989 was being released, and it was just there were all these Easter eggs that night. But we got there, and we brought some food with us, and we ate in the car. And so I got all the trash out, and I was went to the trash can, and I had my T-shirt that said Swifty Dad. And these two ladies were in a car near ours, and they said, sir, and I was like, oh, sir, you're calling me sir? Oh, but I turned, and it was nice, and they said, oh, we'd love to give you bracelets. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And my daughters had made bracelets for me to trade with people. And so just seeing that, and just just like you said, the communal nature, and just kind of hearing everything. Like I've seen Bruce Springsteen in concert probably like 15 times, and he's the only one who's played as long as Taylor Swift did that night. And I mean, just to see what kind of like how she really brought it that night, and just gosh, she blew the roof off of SoFi Stadium, and it was something that that I'm gonna cherish, and getting to experience it with my daughters. My wife and we had to kind of like divide and conquer with the kids, because we ended up being able to get our oldest daughter was she was going to be leaving for college before that final night, so she ended up going the Saturday prior with my wife. And then so I took our twin daughters, and kind of like experiencing something like that with them. It was just like, she's their Elvis, she's their Beatles, their Michael Jackson, and to see them experience that. Really, I don't know if they're, and get to be a part of it, and have them help me be a part of it, making sure that I enjoyed it. As a dad, it is one of the top 10 moments in my life as a parent.
It was an absolute blast for sure. And
what was your favorite song? What was your favorite song in the night?
Oh my gosh! I liked them all, but my favorite song, my favorite performance, man, I don't know if I can do it. Do you have one?
The one that really it wasn't my favorite song, but for some reason Fearless that night really struck with me.
Sure.
And You Belong With Me, because my daughters were really, really big on making sure that we did the tap at the right time. So
okay.
And of course the 10-minute version of All Too Well, which is probably my favorite one of her songs. To see that, I'm like, I told my daughters, I said that was close to seeing Prince sing Purple Rain.
Like in the rain, right at the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Man. I will say All Too Well. Yeah, I did rank that number one when I did a top 50 with my daughter on a podcast. So that was special. Ready for It was great because my wife likes that.
Yes.
She's not a huge Taylor Swift fan. She's not a huge music fan, but she had an incredible time, and she likes that song. So doing that was fun. And then I think it was probably Bad Blood where they had the fire blasting,
yes,
which was pretty good. But the whole experience, to me, it's like one big experience, right? Just, she's a master at what she does. Yep. So she nailed it for sure. What's your favorite place to vacation?
I probably my wife, my wife and I went to Kauai on our honeymoon, and It's my favorite island. It's gosh, I mean, it's the perfect blend. It's slower than the other islands in Hawaii and smaller. And we went as a family about 5 years ago. And just if I could go back there once a year for the rest of my life, just phenomenal.
It's great. It's great. So, what's one thing that you're just deeply grateful for at this time?
I'm really grateful for all the people who have been a big support to me and really boosted me up in the fantasy industry. Honestly, one of the people, especially Chris Allen, he started this group, the Cookout Group, um, to make sure that get more minority representation in the fantasy sports and gaming industry, and that it was that group that that made that I was one of the people who went to the FSGA, and that's where I met so many people. That's where I made the connections for Yahoo. I made some great connections with RotoWire, and just made so many great relationships at that point that have led to opportunities that I'm just so grateful, just so utterly grateful. The panel that we did really opened some doors, and I think it opened some eyes. There were a lot of people, some big names in the industry, who came up to me afterward and told me how much the panel that we talked about kind of like minority representation in the industry, where it really hit home with them. And I was so proud to be a part of that group with Kendall and James Coe and Dan Titus and Justin Henry. Mauricio Gutierrez also came up and talked, and it's so great. I am so utterly grateful, because I don't think I'm at Yahoo if I'm not a part of that group.
That's awesome. Yeah, that FSGA was a good one. Are you going to be back this year?
I hope so. I'm planning on it.
Nice. Looking forward to
I got to
that.
survive the football season first.
Yeah. Let's get through it. So, when it comes to the actual football season, obviously we're right there in the middle of it. What are some of the biggest surprises for you thus far? Some players that have just missed on you, or some guys that have come out that have actually surprised you in a positive way?
Well, you know what? One of my big predictions that really fell flat was Najee Harris. I just so expected that he was going to be good this year. I thought he was going to. I thought the way he closed last year, the upgrade to the offensive line, I thought Kenny Pickett was going to be better, and that one just was a big letdown. For my hometown Rams, Puka Nacua, one of the great surprises of this season, just absolutely spectacular. And one of the things that I'm writing up, I've been pleasantly surprised what CJ Stroud has done. Talking about him, because that blow up game is just another marker in what's been a really great breakout season for him, and his numbers actually line up pretty well with guys like other great rookies in their rookie quarterbacks. Justin Herbert 2020, Cam Newton, that's been great. But I tell you, it's been hard if you didn't get a stud running back, because I mean, gosh, this year has been really rough, between injuries to guys like Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, to see those guys go, and Jonathan Taylor missed the first 4 games of the season. He was my number 2 pick in the Scott Fishbowl draft, but kind of the attrition at the running back position has been tough to manage through. But that's why I write the weekly running back report, to try and help people kind of navigate that tough position for fantasy. But yeah, I'm hoping to get some surprises, maybe some rookie surprises, maybe get another Amon-Ra St. Brown 2021 breakout during the fantasy playoffs that'll help someone kind of win a surprise championship. That'd be phenomenal.
Any players that you're looking at that you might have, or that might have a strong finish that you're excited about?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, since I mentioned him, I mean, he's got great matchups in the fantasy playoffs. He plays Minnesota twice. So we know and all the games are indoors, and he has a shootout game against Dallas. So, I mean, those games are going to be great. Familia, don't throw any, no darts, but I think Bijan Robinson's going to have a good closing to the season. He faces, during the fantasy playoffs, I know he faces Carolina and Chicago. And I think off the top of my head, I can't remember the third one, but I know there were 3 defenses that were among the most forgiving this season. I think he's going to have a good one. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson has himself a great closing kick. He's week 17. It's going to be him going one-on-one with Tua Tagovailoa. And they had an epic match last year where I think Tua would throw for 500 yards and Lamar Jackson threw for 300, ran for 100, and I think he accounted for 4 touchdowns. I think I'm really starting to look at the fantasy playoffs right now because and trying to maneuver getting guys on some of these teams that have good matchups, whether it be great defenses or quarterbacks that maybe aren't going to be throwing in in blizzard conditions. That's why talking about it, Monroe St. Brown, Jared Goff has a really, really good closing kick in there. And if somebody's so inclined for Josh Dobbs, he's also got himself a nice little closing kick too. But I can't wait. I'd love to see more good quarterback play to close out the season because it's been a mixed bag, even with some of the elite guys this year.
Yeah, it's that time of year to start looking ahead and start planning for the final run. So and it's crazy how fast the season goes. It blows your mind. Now, Jorge, you've done an incredible job with establishing your presence in the fantasy community and getting involved. Can you name a few people that have had a massive impact on you during your journey within the industry?
Oh my goodness. I've dropped a few names ahead of time. Mauricio was being the first one to take my phone call. I remember we'd spoken like early August of 2020. And the greatest advice he told me is just keep going, keep putting content out there. He said, you may not think that you're getting all the clicks, but someone's going to find you. That was phenomenal. Troy King has been someone that I can't hug enough when I see him, because it seems like every time he introduces me to a group of people, he's the one who introduced me to the Cookout group. And that opened so many doors. He also introduced me to a group of other fantasy content creators who in 2021, a lot of us were just kind of getting started. And so many great friends have come out of that group who've helped me. People like Joey Wright and Jeff Bell and Dave Kluge and Scott Simpson. It's just been, so many, Shane Barrett. Just so many great friends from around the industry, and Troy has been great. Like I mentioned, Chris Allen, he doesn't need to bring the Cookout group together. He doesn't need to do that because he's got more work than he knows what to do with, from in the fantasy industry, the work that he's doing with Fantasy Life and previously with Yahoo and other places. But he's always had the goal of wanting to see more minorities, more women doing this, to just kind of really diversify. And gosh, those people have just been fantastic. I mentioned Scott and Bo McBrayer and Mike Collins. They have been my roommates the last 2 years at the expo. They've become, just such valued friends. And a list could go on and on. The Fantasy Points guys, especially Graham Barfield and Joe Dolan, John Hansen. They a year ago, I told them I was kind of teetering on whether to continue, but they brought me into their Fantasy Points media group, and then they brought me in to do some work behind the scenes, and that opened doors. That opened doors that kept me going in the industry, but it also opened doors that led to what's happening now at Yahoo, and again, all the people at Yahoo, Matt, Jason Klobaka, Scott, Dalton, Andy. It's just and also Liz. Also, she's been a great friend. I could just go on and on. Kendall, all the people, probably all the people in our in our SFB live chat, I mean, I've got some story with so many of them that is really, really important to me. And just so many valid friends in there, and just consider myself lucky. And that another thing that Mauricio said, just be a positive force, because we want to make sure that people have good interactions with us and leave with the good interactions with with not only us as people, but also as the group we represent, Latinos and all the minorities that are coming up behind us.
Well, you have certainly been a positive force. I enjoy every second I'm around you. Your joy is contagious. I love that kind of thing. And you've mentioned so many wonderful people. We are truly blessed to have met so many great people, and to be connected with so many great people, and to look forward to events like, again, FSGA coming up, hopefully a live SFB next year, and of course back at the Expo. All things to look forward to. Can't wait, to build more memories with you and all those people you've mentioned. Good stuff all the way around.
And you always have the best shirts. You and LQ always have the coolest shirts going on. So
gotta make it fun.
Gotta make it fun. That awesome, amigo. I appreciate. I like I said, I appreciate any time we get to share time together, and I just appreciate you inviting me. This has been awesome. I can't believe I looked up and I thought we started 5 minutes ago.
Here we are. So, is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out?
You know what? I just one of the greatest bit of advice that I got from Mauricio and from other people was just get started. If anybody wants to do it, and just keep doing it, be consistent, keep doing it. And even if you think that people aren't watching, you're building up a library that somebody will go back to. And and the thing is, reach out, become friends, and make friends with people, because you never know how that's going to lead, because this is a great community. It's a fairly tight-knit community, and people boost one another up, and and to me, that's what's special about it. So do the work, but also get connected.
I love it. So tell listeners, viewers, where they can find you.
I push out all my content at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter. Also, you can find my Yahoo page, but honestly, go to Yahoo, Yahoo Fantasy page, and you're going to see my content. Probably like 4 or 5 days a week. Also, please follow the Familia FFB YouTube page. I do a weekly show that I'm going to put out this evening, just a weekly preview show during the off season. I also do some stuff with with NFL insiders that are kind enough to come on and kind of give me insight in their teams, and also bring on a lot of guests. So you're going to be on. I'm going to pull you in on one of these, so we could do a home on home. And of course, the Injury Prone podcast. So if you guys after you've liked and subscribed this podcast, FF Unlimited, then go over to Familia FFB and the Injury Prone podcast. Give us a like and subscribe. Really appreciate it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jorge. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I look forward to seeing where your career takes you.
Salud, brother. Salud. Keep pumping.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.